The GPS said, "Go here." What I found was unbelievable. It was supposed to be a normal drive home. I'd had a long day and just wanted to zone out to some music and get back to my cozy couch. But when my GPS glitched and gave me a weird reroute, something about it felt off. The route wasn't just taking me through back roads, it was guiding me to a place I didn't recognize at all. My curiosity got the better of me, so I decided to follow it. I wish I hadn't. What I found when I got there was something I'll never forget. It started as a harmless mistake, or at least, that's what I thought. I was driving home from a work trip, tired but not exhausted enough to ignore my GPS. My usual route had some kind of delay, so the GPS chirped in its annoyingly cheerful voice. "Rerouting, turn left in 500 feet. I didn't think much of it. The turn led me down a narrow road lined with trees, the kind of road you'd see in a low-budget horror movie. It was almost sunset, and the orange light flickered through the branches, casting weird shadows. Still, I figured it was just an alternate route to avoid traffic. But after about 15 minutes of winding roads, I realized something was off. There were no street signs, no houses, not even the random gas stations you'd expect in the middle of nowhere. Just endless trees and that eerie silence you only hear when you're completely alone. My GPS said I'd be home in 20 minutes, but instead of the highway, it was directing me deeper into the woods. I should have turned around then, but something about the way it kept insisting, "Continue straight for 3 miles," made me keep going. I told myself it was just technology being weird, but deep down, I felt that knot in my stomach, like something was watching me. As I drove further down the narrow road, the trees seemed to grow denser, their branches stretching out like skeletal hands. The GPS chimed again. "Turn right in 500 feet. The thing was, there wasn't a road in sight, just a faint dirt path, barely visible under the thick carpet of leaves. I hesitated, slowing down and glancing at the screen. The map showed the path as a valid route, but it didn't look like a road meant for cars. Still, I felt this weird pull, like I needed to keep following it. My rational side screamed at me to turn around and find a main road, but curiosity had taken over. I turned onto the path, my car bumping over uneven ground. The GPS reassured me. "Proceed for 1.5 miles. At this point, I wasn't even sure what I was expecting to find. Some secret shortcut, a hidden back road. But as the trees closed in around me, blocking out most of the fading sunlight, I started to regret my decision. The dirt path narrowed even more, and my tires crunched over sticks and rocks. My phone buzzed in the cup holder, and I glanced down. A text from a friend. "How's the drive? You home yet?" I didn't answer. I didn't even want to admit I was following a route that felt so wrong. Then I noticed something ahead, a clearing. My GPS still showed another mile to go, but it looked like the path ended in that open space. And in the center of the clearing, something metallic glinted in the dim light. The clearing was unsettlingly quiet. No rustling leaves, no birds, just the faint hum of my car engine as I rolled closer to the metallic object in the middle. My headlights illuminated it, revealing what looked like an old, rusted gate. It wasn't attached to a fence or wall, just standing there on its own, like it had been dropped there by mistake. I stopped the car a few feet away, my breath catching in my chest. The GPS chirped again, breaking the silence. "You have arrived at your destination." That knot in my stomach tightened. This couldn't be right. What kind of destination was this? Against every instinct telling me to stay in the car, I stepped out. The air was colder here, almost biting. The gate had strange symbols etched into its frame, patterns that looked like they could have been carved centuries ago. I ran my fingers over one of the markings, and it felt oddly warm, as if the metal were alive. And then I noticed something else. Behind the gate, the ground looked wrong. It was darker than the surrounding area, almost black, and there was a faint shimmer, like heat waves rising from asphalt on a hot day. But it wasn't warm. It was freezing. My phone buzzed again, snapping me out of my daze. A notification. GPS connection lost. The map disappeared, replaced by a blank screen. I felt a chill run down my spine. That's when I heard it. A faint sound, like whispering, coming from the other side of the gate. The whispering sent a shiver through me, low and almost melodic, like a song carried by the wind. I spun around, scanning the clearing, but there was no one there. Just me, my car, and the strange gate. The sound didn't stop, It grew louder, more distinct, like voices overlapping, but speaking in a language I couldn't understand. I took a step back toward my car, every instinct screaming at me to leave, but something about the gate held me in place. It felt like it was pulling me in, daring me to come closer. My heart pounded as I tried to reason with myself. It's just the wind, I thought, but deep down, I knew that wasn't true. The ground behind the gate shimmered again, almost like a mirage, and then I saw it. Movement. Just a flicker, but enough to make my breath catch. There was something, or someone, on the other side. The whispering grew louder, more frantic, and for a second, I thought I heard my name. I stumbled back, nearly tripping over a rock. My phone buzzed in my hand again. This time, it wasn't a text or notification. It was a call. The screen flashed unknown caller. My thumb hovered over the decline button, but before I could press it, the call answered itself. A voice crackled through the speaker, low and distorted. "Why did you come here? Make sure to like the video and subscribe so you never miss more shocking and real stories like this one." The distorted voice sent chills down my spine. It was deep and uneven, as if it were coming from a broken speaker. I didn't recognize it, but there was something unsettlingly familiar about the tone, like it knew me. "Who is this?" I demanded, my voice shaky. There was a long pause, and then the voice said again, slower this time. "Why did you come here?" "I didn't mean to," I stammered. "The GPS..." The line cut out with a static crackle before I could finish. I stared at my phone, trying to make sense of what had just happened. No bars, no service, just a dead signal, but the gate. It was still there, and so was the whispering, growing louder and more insistent. My breath came faster as I backed toward the car. I wanted to leave, but when I turned to get in, I saw something that made my heart stop. The road I had driven in on, it was gone. In its place was more forest, dense and impenetrable, as if the trees had grown back in seconds. I spun around, panic surging through me. The clearing was the same, the gate unmoving, but now I felt completely trapped. The whispering suddenly stopped, replaced by silence so heavy it pressed down on my chest. Then, the shimmering behind the gate intensified, and I saw it again. Movement. This time, there was no mistaking it. A figure stepped forward, its outline dark and unnatural, as if it didn't belong in this world. The figure stepped closer, its shape distorted, like it was flickering in and out of focus. It wasn't human, at least not entirely. Its form was elongated, its limbs too thin, its head tilted at an unnatural angle. The shimmering light behind it made it hard to tell if it was solid or a shadow, but its presence felt heavy, like it was pulling the air out of the clearing. I froze, my mind screaming for me to run, but my body refused to move. The figure reached the edge of the gate and stopped, its head tilted even further, as though it was studying me. Then, for the first time, it spoke. "Why have you come here?" The voice wasn't distorted like the phone call, but low and resonant, vibrating in my chest. "I didn't mean to," I managed to choke out, my voice barely above a whisper. "The GPS brought me here. I don't even know where I am." The figure tilted its head the other way, as if considering my words. "It called you," it said simply. "What called me?" I asked, my voice cracking. "The path," it replied. "You shouldn't have followed it." My knees felt weak, and I gripped the side of my car to steady myself. "What do you mean? I didn't..." The figure leaned closer, pressing against the invisible barrier of the gate. Its eyes, or where its eyes should have been, seemed to focus on me. "You chose to follow, and now you cannot go back." The words hit me like a punch to the gut. I glanced behind me again, hoping the road had reappeared, but it was still gone. Just endless forest and the oppressive silence. I tried to keep my breathing steady, but my chest felt tight. "What do you mean I can't go back?" I demanded, my voice trembling. "There has to be a way out of here." The figure didn't move, but seemed to stretch, its outline flickering as if it were merging with the shadows around the gate. "The way out is the way forward," it said cryptically. "What does that mean?" I asked, frustration lacing my fear. "I didn't choose this. I just followed the GPS. I didn't know where it was taking me." The figure tilted its head again. "Choice or not, you came. The gate only calls those it seeks." "What does it want?" My voice cracked. "What do you want?" It didn't answer immediately, the pause dragging out so long that I wondered if it would answer at all. Then it finally spoke. You must give something to leave, a piece of you, an offering. I stared at it, my heart hammering. An offering? What kind of offering? The figure leaned closer, the space between us charged with an unnatural energy. A memory, a moment, something that matters. I felt the weight of its words. You want me to give up part of myself? It didn't respond directly, but the air grew colder, the shadows around the gate thickening. I realized I didn't have much of a choice. Whatever this thing was, it wasn't letting me go until I gave it what it wanted. The weight of the figure's words pressed down on me. A piece of myself? A memory? My mind raced, trying to grasp what that even meant. How do I give you a memory? I asked hesitantly. The figure straightened, its elongated limbs almost blending into the shimmering barrier of the gate. Think of the moment that defines you, it said, the one you hold closest. Offer it, and you may pass. My chest tightened. The moment that defines me? My thoughts spiraled back to my childhood, to the time I first felt like myself. I thought of my mom teaching me to ride a bike, her laughter ringing out as I wobbled down the driveway. I thought of the night I got my first job, calling her to tell her the good news while she cheered over the phone. These memories were more than moments. They were anchors, the things that made me who I was. I can't, I whispered, shaking my head. I can't give that up. The figure didn't move, but its presence seemed to grow heavier, the clearing darker. Then you will remain, it said, its voice echoing like a distant storm. My throat went dry. Remain? Here? Forever? The thought sent a chill through me. Wait, I blurted out. What happens if I do it, if I give you a memory? You will leave, the figure replied simply. But the memory will be gone. It will no longer be yours. I felt trapped. Either I lost part of myself, or I stayed in this nightmare, my hands clenched into fists. I didn't want to let go of anything, but what choice did I have? I closed my eyes, my mind racing as I tried to decide. What memory could I give up? Could I even bring myself to do it? Every important moment I thought of felt like it was woven into the fabric of who I was. Losing one felt like tearing away a piece of my identity. But the alternative was worse, being trapped here, in this suffocating clearing, with that shadowy figure looming over me. I had to choose. My thoughts landed on a memory from years ago, something bittersweet. It was the night I broke up with my first love. I remembered sitting in my car after the conversation, staring at the steering wheel, overwhelmed with sadness and relief. It was a defining moment for me. The first time I truly chose myself over someone else. I hated the thought of letting it go, but maybe I could live without it. Okay, I said finally, my voice trembling. Take the memory. The figure didn't move closer, but I felt the air shift, heavy and electric. Speak it aloud, it commanded. Tell it to me. I swallowed hard, recounting the memory, the details spilling out of me like water from a broken dam. As I spoke, I felt an odd tugging sensation, like something intangible was being pulled from my chest. By the time I finished, I felt empty. The memory was still there in pieces, but it was hazy, like a dream I could barely recall. The figure stepped back, its outline dimming. It is done, it said. You may go. I looked around, and my heart leapt. The road was back, clear and open. Without another word, I stumbled into my car and sped off, leaving the gate, and whatever it was guarding, behind. As I drove away, the tension in my chest started to ease, but the emptiness lingered. I couldn't shake the strange feeling, like a part of me was missing. The memory I'd given up was still there in fragments, but it felt distant, like it didn't belong to me anymore. The bittersweet ache I once associated with it was gone, replaced by a hollow absence. The forest thinned out, and soon I was back on familiar roads. The GPS seemed to reset itself, calmly directing me home, as if nothing had happened. But I couldn't forget. The gate, the figure, the offering, it all felt surreal, like I'd stepped into another world. And yet, the gap in my memory was proof that it had been real. When I got home, I sat in my driveway for a long time, staring at the dashboard. What had I just experienced? Was it a warning? A test? I didn't know, and part of me didn't want to. All I knew was that I'd never blindly follow my GPS again. To anyone watching this, let my story be a lesson. Sometimes curiosity pulls us into places we aren't meant to go. and the cost of following it can be greater than we expect. Trust your instincts. If something feels off, don't ignore it. Have you ever experienced something unexplainable or felt like you were being led somewhere you didn't belong? Share your story in the comments. I'd love to hear it. And don't forget to like and subscribe if you want to hear more stories like this. Thanks for watching.